All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and it is time for another edition of NASCAR '06 Total Team Control. And today, we are kicking off the new year 2023 with a bang. And not only that, but we are racing a crown jewel race today, the Southern 500. Just 5 races left on our custom schedule season, and it all comes down to this. In these final 5 races, we are third in points, 110 out of first, behind points leader Carl Edwards, rookie Carl Edwards at that. This is going to be an interesting one, to say the least. Of course, the last race at Darlington, we had a thriller, a last lap pass for the win. Greg Biffle beat Elliott Sadler that day. Remember, that was a race that Tony Stewart decided to try and wreck us. We crammed it into the back of Scott Wimmer, who blew an engine, and then we ended up having to make an unscheduled pit stop. We came from a lap down middle of the race to end up coming back to win late. Hopefully we don't have to make any sort of comeback today, but if you've watched any races on the channel in the last week or so, we've had a lot of near comebacks or comeback wins, so we'll see if we can at least keep the car up towards the front of the field. Last night in the truck race at California, we were pretty much in the top 5 most of the race, and we ended up winning late in that one. But so hopefully we can have more of the same today, where we're able to at least stay towards the front. We didn't lead a lot of laps. We only led like 7 laps out of the 100, but we were up in the running for pretty much the entire race, so we need to do that today. Track position is going to be crucial. We're about to qualify, and again, happy 2023 to all you guys. I did not stay up very late last night. I went to bed fairly early. I actually missed the end of the Ohio State game last night, but saw that they ended up losing. Missed the last-second field goal, and unfortunately, my Michigan Wolverines lost yesterday too. I was texting a buddy of mine from work. He's an Ohio State fan, and I was like, it'd be fitting if like both of us arch rivals, kind of rooting against each other, and then they both lose today or something, and sure enough, that ended up happening. So, we'll see, though, how this race is going to go. Enough talking about that, and into qualifying we go with Greg Biffle. Derek Booth, Wade Solinsky, Isaiah Z, NASCAR Cup Series 2311 Racing, Mark DeMars, and others. Welcome into the stream. Got the Subway paint scheme on the car. This is the lucky Subway paint scheme. Greg Biffle has not lost a race with it so far this season. Get a little loose, trying to get up to speed there on the apron of the racetrack. We'll work its way onto the racetrack now, and we'll see how this is going to go about. It's going to be an interesting race today. 500 miles. It's all going to be about survival at the Lady in Black under the lights. The first race here was a day race, but it's still going to be slick. Knowing the treacherous Darlington track conditions, a very worn out surface. Remember, we did not race the Cup Series on NASCAR '06 last week, so these guys coming in off a week off. Pretty close to the pole time on lap 1. Fourth quickest of a 28.565. Going to try to pick it up a little bit here on lap 2. Car's just bobbing and weaving a lot in the middle of the corners. Pretty good through turns 1 and 2. Into 3 and 4. One final time. Biffle drives it in deep. Sticks the bottom of the track a lot better than what he did on lap number 1. Off the exit of turn 4, trying to keep the wheel as steady as he can. It'll be quicker, but it's not going to be quick enough. Second place, and not by much either, if I had to imagine. Outside of the front row for Biffle, Carl Edwards will be on the pole as he beat Greg Biffle by 36 one-thousandths of a second for the pole time. So an all Roush Fenway Racing front row. Unfortunately, Edwards is the points leader, so him starting on the pole, not good. We'll see who's going to lead the opening lap of the race. It's going to be an important battle here off the start, the Dodge Charger Southern 500. Green flag is going to be in the air. We are underway at Darlington. Greg Biffle trying to get a launch in that second lane, and he's clear. What a start by Greg Biffle on the outside as he gets to the lead into 1 and 2, but Edwards to the outside as he's going to try to cross him over the alternative way. And they're door-to-door on the back straightaway. Edwards still might lead the opening lap. Biffle doesn't want him to as he drives it in deep down on the bottom. Edwards squeezes. This is a big first lap of the race here. Biffle is clear off turn 4 and he'll lead the opening lap. We're off and running early. That was a heck of a first lap. Edwards is going to lose out on second place to Elliott Sadler, who also qualified pretty well. He saw Rusty Wallace in the mix in the opening couple laps in his final season. Running out of races to try to get his final career win in his final season, as he's still winless on the season. 12 different winners so far through 31 completed races. It's been a little bit since the most recent different winner. Edwards fell in line behind Wallace in fourth, it looks like, before he finally got to the inside. Trying to get underneath Rusty in turns 3 and 4. That's not going to happen. Biffle trying to lead as many laps as he can here in this one. Cars One boy Michael Turner also welcome into the stream. I don't know if the long run is going to be there because the car feels really edgy. I did not make any adjustments between qualifying and the race, as you saw. So I'm just really, really hoping for the best here. This car is going to be fast. I just hope it's fast on the long run. We'll just have to wait and find out over the course of the race. Next race of the season at Chicagoland, followed by Dockside for the final street course race of the year, then the final road course race at Old Spice Speedway before the season finale at Talladega over the next few weeks. So big for Biffle not to let Edwards lead that opening lap. It's going to be tough to make sure he doesn't lead a lap this entire race, especially when we get into green flag pit stops, assuming we have green flag stops in today's race. We don't know, obviously, how the cautions will play out. We had a handful of them in the first Darlington event of the season. Biffle trying to get the Darlington sweep, one of just a few tracks that we're actually racing at more than once on this custom schedule season. And the second to last in which we'll race more than once. Talladega we've already raced at twice. Next 3 races all on tracks we have not raced at yet this year. Last 400-mile race will be at Chicagoland next weekend. We got to worry about this today first. Looks like Dale Jr. is up into 5th place in the early going right behind Edwards. Edwards went to the outside in turns 3 and 4. Biffle's got a little breathing room. He's got about a 3 to 4 tenths of a second lead. Probably about 3 to 4 car lengths ahead of Sadler into turn 1 on lap number 8. So even though Edwards qualified on the pole, he did not lead a lap. I was just hoping we had the restart gear in it, honestly. We did. Because if we didn't, we probably would have lost a couple spots being on the outside, but I mean, this is massive if Biffle could get 10 bonus points today for leading the most laps as well. Another reason why he wanted to qualify well, get to the lead early, and he did both of those things. And he didn't even have to qualify on the pole to do it. I think I'll get used to the handling of the car. I already feel more used to it than what I was in qualifying. Qualifying, it felt a little sketchy, but even just 9 laps into the race, getting extra laps, I'm figuring out how to drive it, so you know, you can only imagine like 299 laps from now that I'll be pretty dialed in. As long as we keep the car clean, obviously. Which is no easy task at Darlington. Top 5 have not changed order after the first couple laps of the race once they got into that single file line, even though 2nd through 4th pretty tightly bunched together. Scott Riggs qualified 7th, Shane Meal 9th, John Andretti 15th. That's crazy. I didn't really look too deep into the qualifying order. I kind of saw where the championship guys are running. I'm like, all right, we'll go from there. Now, we might be talking about the top 3 in points, of course, a lot in today's race, but there are a couple other drivers that still somewhat have a chance, like Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, or hanging in there, even Kurt Busch to a certain extent, if the top 3 have problems in these final 5 races, which 2 fantasy tracks and a super speedway still to come, and obviously this 500-mile race at Darlington, it is not going to be easy on these guys. It might even be safe to say that the safest race from here to the end of the season is going to be Chicagoland next week. Because those two road course races are going to be the longest road races of the season, as they're both going to be nearly 500 miles. It is going to be... I mean, they're going to be a couple of long races. Especially at Old Spice Speedway, it's probably going to be the longest race of the season. Actually, I think it's 500 kilometers more in the... It is 500 miles at Old Spice Speedway. That I can guarantee, because that's 333 laps on a mile-and-a-half road course. Yeah, DNF by any of the top three. I mean, you consider DNF this late in the season, if you're in the hunt for the championship, you're done. There is no chance. And that's what makes Talladega so interesting, knowing that we seemingly have a big one or two almost every super speedway race. You know, where are you going to be when it strikes? You got to do your best not to cause it or be around it, but you got to fight to get some laps led if it comes down to bonus points in the final race of the year. Alternate through the different camera angles for the first time in the race today, as we're in the very, very early going to the Southern 500 on this Sunday, New Year's Day afternoon. There's the first Darlington stripe of the race as Biffle stripes the wall up off the exit of turn 2. I think it really affected him too much. It took 16 laps to get the first Darlington stripe of the night. The car just really wants to float in the middle a little bit, but more so off the exit of the corner. You get off turn 2 here, it's almost like a dip. The car gets really light. It's not as bad off turn 4, even though it's a tighter exit to the corner than what turn 2 is with this egg-shaped racetrack. Just over half a second lead for the Biff. Not gonna lie, when I'm watching the Packers game today, I think we're gonna get some Subway before the game. This is making me a little hungry. NASCAR advertisements doing their tricks, doing their justice. Watch it for a red X. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. At least we know if Edwards DNFs. Not so much with Sadler, unless we actually see him blowing an engine. I mean, it'd be nice to get a 1-2 finish in the championship standings here for Roush Fenway Racing. Obviously, we want to be the ones to win the title, but we're not going to be doing any sort of team altercations or anything of that nature. Edwards is flat out leading. He's going to earn it. $13 wins on the season for Biffle. Can't remember what the average finish is coming into the race. I do have it on my Google Docs. I'll have to pull that up mid-race. It's been a great season. I mean, our average finish is not that high above 10, if I remember correctly. The DNFs, that's what's hurting him right now. He's got 5 of them this year. Might do it for Dale's season. I only had 3. And we lost the championship there, so we're actually kind of lucky that I'm performing better in the races I haven't DNF'd in. A lot better when you consider the fact that last season I had about half as many DNFs and finished like, what, 5th in points? 6th? Granted, we had a reset with the chase. I wouldn't have won the title. I think Edwards still would have won the championship on that season, but If we had a full season points format, I probably would have finished second or third. Which is, I guess, where I'm running right now. In a full season points format, sitting in third. Good thing it's a long season, though, 36 races. I mean, I know it's still early in the race, but I think it's fair to say Greg Biffle's got the fastest short run car in the field today. So that's definitely a good start for him. Just has to hope he can pace his tires well enough on the long run. Try to keep that wheel as steady as possible. The more you're moving it back and forth, the more he's going to really start to burn the tires off. The tires are going to fall off anyway at this racetrack. I mean, it's just a guarantee. It's going to happen. It's just who can manage it better over the long run is likely going to go on to win this race with it being 500 miles, especially if we don't get a lot of cautions. Yeah, Bliss on back in points out of the championship. I'd probably say the same thing now that we're only down to 5 races. Because there's just too many guys in front of him that they would need to have problems. .3 second lead for the Biff. 29 laps into lap 367, which is the end lap of this race. It's amazing how far the top 5 have pulled away. I mean, the gap between 5th and 6th on the racetrack is pretty wide margin. Problem is of the guys in the top 5, Sadler and Edwards along with Biffle are there, so they're all running tightly. It's going to be hard to make up 110 points in 5 races. It's not impossible. I mean, we look at Bristol a couple races ago, and Greg Biffle dominated that race. Edwards had problems, finished outside the top 10. He was able to gain 70 points in one race. So it's not impossible, but if they're on their game, you know, if we win, lead the most laps, Edwards doesn't lead a lap, finishes second. We're only gaining 20 points. So we are going to need help on top of trying to win these last 5 races. That win at Daytona was so big for Greg Biffle, as he was able to pass Edwards with 2 to go to win the race. That was a huge 10-point swing. But really, it's a 20-point swing if you think about it, because if Edwards would have won, he would be 20 points higher than Biffle, because Biffle was able to get 10 more, while Edwards lost 10 more in those final laps. And that's one thing, too, though. In our Dale Jr. season, I think I won 13 races the entire season. And we have 5 races left. I'm already at 13 wins here. So that just goes to show that we have had a bit more consistency. If I can get a couple more wins, you definitely can't count the 16 out. I really have no clue how Dockside is going to go. That's probably the oddball race of the season. Like Talladega, we're going to have speed. We just got to make it to the end. But Dockside, I have no clue how my car is going to be handling speed. That's going to be the outlier. Old Spice Speedway, that's at least a track we've ran in the other series on this game. We haven't ran it in the Cup Series yet, so it might be a little bit different, but the big thing with that is just the fact it's 500 miles, and that race is going to take 5 or 6 hours. It's literally going to be an endurance race. Only there's no driver swapper. You're going to have to run the whole thing. I mean, we'll be able to transfer with teammates, but you get the point. We're going to have to run the full race. Might have the fastest car in the field, but just to survive a road course race that long with one driver in the car all the way through the race, that's going to be so difficult. We'll take our first field pass of the race today. We'll go to Matt Kenseth in the 17 car. We'll see where he's running for right now. He is back at 25th. Must not have qualified too particularly well. He's got Jeremy Mayfield right underneath him. Kenseth got a nice run off the exit of turn 4. He gets back down to the bottom in front of the 19 of Mayfield. Kenseth's car is a little too loose. I drove it in really deep into the corner, but his car kind of turns way too freely on entrance compared to Biffle's. And that could be another reason why he's as far back in the running order. He just got his first win of the season not that long ago. He's the last of the Roush Fenway Fords to get a win. He and Kurt Busch, the only Roush Fenway cars of the 5 with 1 win. Edwards has 2, Martin has 3, and again, Biffle has 13. Biffle had a great run through 3 and 4, trying to get to the inside. I mean, this car is so floaty. I'm zigzagging on the straightaways. Kenseth's car is not handling well. I don't feel comfortable even trying to make a pass with this car, to be completely honest. I'm just going to sit right behind Newman. This thing's hard to drive. Okay, maybe I'll go for it. Maybe not the wisest thing. Now they're stacking up in front of him anyway. He's underneath Jeff Burton getting into turn 1. Side by side there. Got into Newman. Yeah, that's why I didn't want to make a pass. A little bit of contact. Burton's going to get back around his former teammate on the outside. Jesus. This thing's all over the place. We'll go to Kurt Busch. Hopefully his car's a little better. He's in 7th, so it has to be, you would think. Scott Riggs still in 6th. Maybe not for long if the 97 can get around him. We'll see. Not going to be able to make a pass there. See, that's one thing, though. Biffle started 2nd. He did get around Sadler, but he's led every lap, so he hasn't had to really pass somebody from behind. Kind of stayed side by side with Edwards the whole time and was able to beat him. Trying to make a full pass, I think, is going to be very difficult today. Looking at the track conditions. Big run into turn 3. If Edwards, or rather Kurt Busch can hold it, he'll get to the inside of Riggs off turn 4, and he does. Side by side for 6th place into turn 1. And clear in the middle of 1 and 2. Kurt Busch to P6. Kurt's car is a little loose too, but it's not as bad as Kenseth's. Go 2 more laps with Kurt. And then we'll transfer to either Mark Martin or Carl Edwards next. Halfway on fuel for Kurt Busch right now. They're pacing a little better on fuel than Greg Biffle is up at the very front. May have to pit for tires about the same time, though. Otherwise, they're going to give up even more time. Biffle wants to stay out of the pits as long as he possibly can, though, and that's another reason why he really wants to build a lead up. Because he doesn't want the risk of Edwards staying out longer than him and leading the lap. Same goes for Sadler, too, because he's still trying to... I mean, I keep talking about being 110 points behind Edwards, but we're still 70 points behind Elliott Sadler also. We'll go to Carl Edwards next. He is in 4th. And we're definitely not going to try to make a pass with him. I don't want to risk wrecking one of our championship drivers out of it. We'll just ride around for a handful of laps. Then we'll swap to Mark Martin. Not sure exactly where he's at in the running order. I don't remember seeing him driving as anybody else. Rusty Wallace still hanging in there. He's trying to get by Sadler for second. He just hasn't been able to do it. Deep dive by Edwards getting into turns 3 and 4. Oh, 2.4 seconds behind the Biff. Sadler washed up the track off the exit of turn 4, and Rusty Wallace has a run. Can he get underneath him this time going into turn 1? Not quite. Still caution-free, almost 50 laps into the Southern 500. Rusty Wallace with a run to the inside of Elliott Sadler, side by side for position. Edwards down to the bottom, gonna take it 3 wide. Off the exit of the corner. That doesn't typically work at Darlington. No contact with anybody there. Oh, way too low, way too low. Really loose there for a moment with Edwards. Dale Jr. is going to get by for position. And we'll go back to Mark Martin in the 6 car. At least I didn't wreck Edwards. Lap 50 at the line for Martin. He's sandwiched in 16th. A lot of cars both in front and behind him. A couple of them side by side. Dodges of Travis Quaffle and Sterling Marlin. A couple of the Hendrick cars side by side. Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon as well. Martin on the inside of Quaffle. Harvick to the inside of Gordon, who's stuck on the top. Martin with a big run. Got by Marlin the last lap. Going into turn 1, he'll clear the 77 as well. Harvick to the inside of Jimmy Johnson. Martin way down low off the exit of the corner. Harvick in line, right in between the Hendrick duo of Johnson and Gordon. Jarrett kind of holding these guys up in the 88 car. Martin is up to 12th as he gets by Harvick and might have a shot to get inside the top 10 here. Run 2 more laps with the 6. He's got a run on Johnson into turn 1. Pulls low. How about Mark Martin showing some speed? That's quite a few cars right now. We're trying to get underneath Dale Jarrett for 10th. X-Plays 31, thanks for tuning in. Martin to the inside of Jarrett, side by side for 10th place off turn 4. This will be the 4th Roush Fenway Ford to be inside the top 10. Only one that isn't is Kenseth, who was back in 25th the last we saw. Slide job into turn 1. Martin clears Jarrett. So Mark Martin is now inside the top 10 for the first time today. Back to Greg Biffle for a little bit, at least until we get to pit stops. Quarter of a tank of gas left for Biffle at this point in the run. Lead has shrunk a little bit. It's about 1.7 seconds. It was as much as 2.4 over second. Rusty Wall's kind of driving away. I think he might be a little quicker. And the 38 could have been holding those guys up a little bit. Kind of reminds me of Terry Labonte late in his Hendrick Motorsports career. He got his final career win in the Southern 500 at Darlington in the second to last race of the 2003 season. This isn't the second to last race, but it's a late Darlington Southern 500 when we look at the scheduling. We have just 5 races to go. Rusty trying to get his final career win. Only this is his final season. Terry would go on to race a couple more full-time seasons and then part-time, some smaller teams for the rest of his career, leading up to the early 2010s. Biffle definitely racking up quite a few laps led early. Can't stress to you enough how big this is. Especially if we don't cycle well through pit stops. We do have the Mr. Clean crew. I think Kyle Busch will win more than 2 races this year. It's a good question. I think so if RCR has as good of a road course program as they did last season. Because Kyle Busch and with Toyota, because Toyota as a whole outside of Christopher Bell was not competitive at all on the road courses. If it wasn't for Bell winning at the Roval, and even really Bell was consistent the last couple road course races, but the rest of the JGR Toyotas and even 2311 Racing just terrible road courses. I know Wallace had a top 5 in Indy, but he was not running there most of the race. They were pretty bad. So I think that's going to be a huge enhancement, and I think that's going to hurt Tyler Reddick because he's going to Toyota now. And even though he's a good road course racer, I mean, he might not be that good on the road courses next year. That's where he won 2 of his 3 races this season, including his first 2 career wins. So it'll be interesting. I think that can definitely help him. Obviously, he's still going to have to beat guys like Chase Elliott or even Kyle Larson, who've been good on road courses in recent years. You know, Michael McDowell's proven really good, obviously. Allmendinger. He's going to have to beat those guys. Maybe Cindric. And obviously on the ovals. And one thing that experience is going to help too, because Tyler Reddick was really good on the intermediate tracks, but he didn't necessarily make it to the end of the race in a lot of them. Kyle Busch is the driver that's going to make it to the end of the race in a lot of those, you know, races. If the car might be a little too loose for his liking, like at Homestead, where Reddick was top 5 all day, and then he ended up losing control, spun out, smashed the inside wall. Or, you know, he had tire problems at Auto Club early in the year. That's a track Kyle Busch is really good at, and has won a couple races before. That's where he got his first career win, in fact, as well. Back with Hendrick Motorsports in the 5 car. I could see him winning more than 2 races. Alright, so, yeah, Carl Edwards did pit. I'm not sure about Elliott Sadler or not. Biffle's still going to stay out for that reason. But a good start for the 16, at least. You never know if we catch a caution, too, in the middle of green flag pit stops. Another reason maybe not to short pit. To the inside of Bobby Labonte. John Andretti coming out of the pits just up ahead, right in front. Both of these guys. Biffle on the inside of the 18 into turns 3 and 4, looking to make a clean pass. At least he's able to try to work in traffic for really the first time today. It's going to be harder to pass because they're on fresher tires, most of them. I wouldn't say Gibbs is a title contender next year. I mean, we saw him run in the Cup Series last year. I think he only had 1 top 10. He was finishing races, which is good. I think he can be a playoff contender for sure, especially if he can go. I mean, he's got the talent to just kind of go out there, maybe win a random race or two next year. But I wouldn't say he's a championship contender. I mean, even what Cindric did in his rookie year was highly impressive. The fact that he was top 10 as far as consistency, I think, throughout the course of the season as a whole. He does have a little bit more experience than what Cindric had coming in. Cindric didn't win the Daytona 500. He still would have made the playoffs on points, so I don't know. Biffle going to stay out this time by. He's got a lap lead on the field right now. He's going to pit at lap 67. So lap 67 will be the first stop of the day for Greg Biffle. He's led every lap so far after qualifying second. Still caution free in the Darlington race today. Very difficult pit road to try to get onto, but Biffle will make it there almost seemingly with ease. 4 tires and fuel, no adjustments, and the Mr. Clean crew will go to work on the 16 Ford of Greg Biffle. Patrick Shadley, welcome into the stream also. I can see it, like, I think if Gibbs makes it to the round of 12 next year, extremely impressive rookie season. Like, even just making the playoffs in your rookie season is, you know, impressive, but if he can make it to the round of 12 and have some consistency with it, similar to what Cindric did this year, then by all means. But again, he's good on road courses, yes, but Toyota's struggled in the Cup Series on road courses. You know, I was just talking about that, and I think that's going to hinder some of his consistency next year, too. Because he ran some road course races last year, and he, much like the other Toyota drivers, not very good. They need a complete overhaul in that program. I don't know what went wrong, because you usually think of them as pretty good road racers, especially like Truex, Kyle Busch is somewhat competitive. Not last year. Even Hamlin to a certain extent. I think he won the Daytona road course a couple of years ago. So even being the last car to pit, Greg Biffle still cycles off pit road in P1. So he has led every lap of this race so far, still to this point. It's pretty early, but can we go wire to wire? That would be awesome. If I could do that, there's nothing clutcher than not letting anybody lead any laps. It's a good start for Biffle, but we have a long ways to go. Still almost 300 laps left. We're only through 1 pit stop. I mean, yeah, Toyota can turn it around. They can figure something out this offseason for sure. Our lead was 1.7 seconds over second place when we pitted. And when we came out of the pits, it was only at like 1.6, 1.7, so we really didn't lose any time. It was kind of even with the net. No loss or gain, really, on pit road. And since coming out of the pits, now he's got a couple lap fresher tires. He's quickly out to a 2.1 second lead again. I think there's a battle for second going on right now, too, which is hindering Rusty Wallace is under attack for position. And clean air again for Greg Biffle as well. And that was even with Biffle being in traffic, too. .28.492. Pretty good lap that last time. Wasn't as fastest of the race, but it was pretty close to it. I didn't even see what my fastest lap was. I realized I was in the 28.4s at one point. I saw quite a few 28.5s early in the opening fuel and tire stint, but A little different. Biffle really trying to build a gap. That's only going to help him the more green flag stops we get too, so if he does end up losing time. I think the Mr. Clean Crew had a really fast stop though too. I think that also definitely helped the 16 out. Making up 5 stops, going 67 laps. Yeah, for sure. Seems like a good marker to go off of. I didn't feel my tires were slipping and sliding too much at the end of the run. Managed them pretty well and running some fast laps. I mean, it's easier to manage when you're not having to really pass anybody, though, too. That's so vital. I'd probably give it a little less than 10 laps. We're going to get into lap traffic. It's a 3.5 second lead now. I'm looking down at the interval like every 5 to 6 laps, and it's just substantially bigger than what it was from the previous times I look. I mean, we're starting to run some consistent 28.4s, where the first run I was consistently 28.5s, and it's making a big difference here. There were no adjustments made either. I think the track is just kind of rubbered in, not as green, and I'm just getting used to the race car. Every lap we run in this thing. It's crazy we have a championship fight that's coming down to the wire, and it's really close in the Cup and the Truck Series, and then the Busch Series, we're just absolutely obliterating the field. More than I probably ever have in any NASCAR game we've played on the channel. It's the same game, too. I think it's the equipment, honestly. I think Kyle Busch, because there's grading scales for the drivers in this game, and I think Kyle Busch in the Busch Series is probably one of the better drivers, and obviously, again, we have Hendrick equipment, so I feel like that's making a big difference. Like, Dale Jr. was good, at DEI, but never won a championship, so he wasn't winning a ton of races. So we were competitive, and we finished probably about where, he would typically run equipment-wise on a season around that time period, 2003 to 2005, so. We'll see. Biffle was really good in 2005, though, too. One of these years, I feel like, or one of these seasons we do, you guys are going to vote for me to drive as, somebody random, and we're going to struggle. Hope that doesn't happen for my own sake, but it'd be a fun challenge. It'd be really difficult in the season-long points format, though. At least with the playoff format in the newer games, I could maybe try to find my way around it. Biffle trying to make some passes on his first couple lap cars of the race. Oh, little contact. Terry Labonte, 28.395, even with the contact with Labonte off turn 4. Imagine how fast the lap would have been if he didn't make contact. His fastest lap, though. Gonna clear Shane Meal into turn 3. 5.2 second lead and growing for Greg Biffle. If he can get through lap traffic really well, and the leaders behind him eventually get into lap traffic and struggle, that's only going to help Biffle out more and more. Just got to be smart. Don't want to cause any cautions. Have to go to the back. Whether we, you know, cause it by spinning somebody or something of that nature. Scott Wimmer. Yeah, see, like that was just too deep of a dive into the corner trying to make a pass. You can really see Biffle's car get loose. He was able to catch it. Did overcorrect it a bit, but not enough that he slapped the wall. Still only has one Darlington stripe in this race, too. That was off turn 2 at lap 16. Hasn't hit the wall at all on 3 and 4, and just hasn't hit it at all since. Really dialed in right now. There's a fine line. Like, you can run on the apron here, but obviously, you know, you see drivers do that a lot at Darlington, but there's definitely a fine line on how far down you can run at a certain point in the corner. Want to be as close to that hash mark as possible. Got to the inside of Wimmer off turn 4. Makes the dive into 1 and 2 on the bottom. And should be able to complete the pass that he does. He's all clear. Still 5-second lead off the exit of turn 2. And he's got a decent gap before he catches any more lap cars, which is going to help also. Diecast Buffet? Yeah, I've never heard of him. Haven't seen any dense lap traffic yet. If we look at the track map, there's definitely some clumps. 2 of them in particular where there just looks like there's a ton of cars. You can kind of see one of them not that far up ahead. Maybe a quarter of a track, a third of a track or so ahead of Biffle. Hopefully they get spaced out more by the time Biffle gets there. Hopefully Biffle doesn't get there at all this run, and green flag pit stops split those cars up a little more. Got a car blowing up. Mike Bliss. Tough break for Mike Bliss, who's having a dream season thus far. Still trying to get his first career win, but he's been so close so many times, especially in the second half of the year. He's been so consistent, which has led him into the top 10 in points in that Haas Automation Chevrolet, and now, unfortunately, he is going to DNF in the Southern 500 today, and I believe he's going to be the first driver out, which means he's going to have a last place finish with no laps led, and that could drop him outside of the top 10, potentially. Maybe not. He might not be quite that far. Or I was going to say that far behind the leaders, but that close, I guess, to some of the drivers and points behind him. Let me see here. He's minus 369. Actually, he could drop outside the top 10. Because Bobby Labonte in 10th is like 120 points behind him. I'm not sure what he's running right now, but that's unfortunate for Mike Bliss. I'd hate to see him not have a top 10 finish at the season he's had. Again, just simply from a consistency standpoint. I don't know if he has the most top 10s on the season anymore. He did for a while. I think he's got like at least 20 top 10s on the year. He doesn't have a whole lot of top 5s. He's got a lot of top 10s. He's been finishing 6th through 10th a lot this season. Lead was as high as about 5.2 to 5.3 seconds ahead of second. I don't know if maybe there's a new driver in second, but it's about a 4.7 to 4.8 second lead now. Lap times have dropped off a little bit, though, for Biffle. He was running 28.3s. Now he's running 28.5s. May have something to do with it, I'm sure. Plus the lap cars, obviously, he's caught versus the rest of the field. Maybe not getting to all of them quite yet. Yeah, I would have probably costed Bliss out of, or counted Bliss out of the championship anyway up to this point. Takes him out of a potential top 5 points finish, though. Maybe he's about 100 out. Getting inside the top 5. There's going to be a couple hundred out. Almost 100 laps in. I did not watch the Wings game. Actually, I haven't watched the Red Wings game in about a week. I don't think they play again till the 4th, right? Yeah, I was out at like 10:30 last night. A little bit after the stream. They won 4-2. Awesome to hear. Yeah, I haven't checked into it yet today either, so I had no clue what happened. Yeah, they're starting to slip behind a little bit. They're going to want to make a playoff push. Got to be getting 2 points more than 1 point. I saw that comeback win against the Penguins. I didn't actually get to watch the game, but that was wild. Down 4-0 after the first period, came back to win. Had 2 goals in the final, what, like 6 minutes of the third, and then scored in overtime to win it. Crazy. So 3 cars right in front of Greg Biffle right now. A little bit of a gap, and then he's going to catch that first giant pack of lap cars just past halfway through the field run, and we're just over 100 laps into this race. Lap 101 of 367, still caution-free in the Southern 500. Biffle a little tight, getting into 3, the side-by-side traffic in front of him. Now he gets to the inside of Jason Leffler, Kyle Petty, and then the 192 all right there in front. Of course, that 192 car is one of the 2 fantasy drivers in the field. Only 2 of them in the field per race in this game in the Cup Series. There are 41 actual drivers. Biffle clears Petty into 3. Leffler Petty battling for the free pass position and trying to stay close with the Biff too, so that way they can maybe get by the 192 as soon as Biffle gets to the inside of him eventually. Which may happen right here in turns 1 and 2. Biffle with the deep dive. Gonna get underneath him, side by side. Still door to door off turn 2. You can definitely tell you're using the tires more. There's a little contact getting into turn 3, which did not help Biffle. He'll clear the 192 barely. A little arrow loose, it looked like, from Jason Leffler on his back bumper as well. But when you're on the inside of a car, you really have to pull the car a lot more with the analog stick, it feels, to try to keep it off the car to the outside. You can't let it drift to the wall, which is what makes it harder on the tires. And obviously harder to get the pass because you're not going to get as good of a drive off, but just having to just turn the car more. 192 qualified 12th. Man, yeah, he is definitely falling. I wonder if Scott Riggs is still in the top 10. He was in 7th after qualifying top 10 earlier. I was headed into the first stops. Yeah, but this is going to be interesting. Biffle gets this big pack. I think there's a good chance I'm going to take my second field pass of the day when I get to there. Just let the AI deal with it. Just to be safe. Because we can't take any risks. We're in the second half of the run. If we were early in the run, I'd be more confident. It's not that I don't trust my own ability, but I'm just trying to play it as safe as possible. We're dominating this race. It seems like it's Greg Biffle's race to lose right now, and he needs to lead as many laps as possible on top of it. He's got a chance to clinch the most laps left if he can lead and still maintain the lead through the second set of pit stops, obviously, but he can lead early into the third run, too. We're going to hit the halfway point before they have to pit a third time in today's race. Probably looking at about lap 134. He's going to have to hit pit road next. So we're getting pretty close. Craig Franklin, thanks for tuning in. Lap 288, yellow flag calling it. It's a bold prediction. I will hold you to that. You deserve an award if you get that correct. Especially just stating it out of nowhere. I didn't even ask. Packers lose. Tickets might be cheaper. I'd go. I've never been to Lambeau. It'd probably be really cold in January. But, man, I need to go one of these times for sure. They're not going to have a home playoff game. Make it a wild card spot, so... They might not be playing... Well, the Lions could play for something if they win. But, like, if both teams... I guess unless Seattle loses, too. And Washington. I mean, if all 4 teams lose this week, then they'd all be in the same position next week. Yeah, Packers have a tough one today. The one thing, though, of all the good teams to play... I don't trust Minnesota because they fall behind and they're just a second half powerhouse. So I don't trust that if Green Bay gets ahead early that, you know, we're going to by any means just kind of run away with it. But that's how resilient the Vikings have been this year. But I also don't trust the Vikings for that reason. It's like at some point they're not going to be able to come back down like 20, you know, points. Double-digit points in the second half again. Dark Crypto, welcome to the stream. Yep, Happy New Year's to everybody. Next lap at the start-finish line, we'll take our second and final field pass of the race today. Biffle's getting closer to a bigger pack of lap cars. He's led every lap so far. Contact up there looked like between Kenny Schrader and the car right in front of him. Can't tell who it was with. We'll go back to Carl Edwards. And he is in second. So, yeah, it's a good thing Greg Biffle is still leading. Edwards is in second place right now. He was in 5th when we got into the first set of pit stops. And he's pretty far ahead of the rest of the cars behind him, it appears. This just puts more pressure on Biffle to have to win the race. So he at least gets some sort of points versus the 99. I've noticed, though, that Edwards' car versus the other Roush cars outside of Biffle is handling way worse. It's got a car blowing up. Looks like Terry Labonte in the 44, I believe, just blew an engine. Our second engine failure of the race. Of course, in these 500-mile races in the mid-2000s, I'm going to see a lot more mechanical failures yet before the end. So 2 engine failures through 114 laps today. Terry Labonte and Mike Bliss are out. 41 cars still on the racetrack. Edwards pitted before. Yeah, that's a good observation. He pitted before a lot of the other cars behind us. Trimming that lead down a little bit. We'll go to another Roush car after this lap is over. We'll see where Kurt Busch is at next, because he was in 6th before the first stop of the race. We'll see where he's at again. Biffle's also dealing with a lot of lap traffic right now, which is another reason why Edwards is closing the gap. And Kurt's still in 6th. Rusty Wallace right in front of him. That'll be Kurt Busch's future ride when we get to NASCAR 07. Kurt on the inside of Rusty, a little too low, a bit loose in the middle of the corner, has to back out of it. I think Dale Jr. is in 4th, just up the way as well. Not too far ahead of the 5th and 6th place drivers. Yeah, that might have been when he stepped away for a little bit. My gosh. Kind of forgot how loose these other cars were. Little Tokyo Drift action off turn 4 for Kurt Busch. Okay, we've got some cars pitting already into the run. I think Rusty Wallace might be coming in. Kurt's going to back out of it. No, he's not. He just decided to make an aggressive block, I guess, going into turn 3. Kurt backed the corner up. Got really good launch off the exit of turn 4. Trying to get after the 2. Can he get around the Blue Deuce? Kurt going low. Side by side for 5th place off the exit of turn 2. Kurt clear into turn 3. Actually, this is Terry Labonte right in front. Kurt Busch, so it wasn't Labonte that blew an engine. It was a car that had a red back bumper. I don't know who it could have been. Maybe Kyle Busch has that alternative paint scheme today. No clue. I would have thought it was Terry Labonte. We'll go back to Matt Kenseth in the 17. He is in 10th right now, but a lot of the cars in front of him have probably pit. Now he's up to 9th. Gordon Truex right in front of him, likely bolt for position. Kenseth on the inside. Edwards is on pit road right now. Kenseth with a really low dive in the middle of 3 and 4. A little too low. Slides up in line right in front of Newman. Behind Gordon. Once again, blocking Newman now into turn 1. Kenseth's car is pretty loose, too. Yeah, it could be Casey Kane, Jeremy Mayfield, maybe. Ooh, contact. I think Truex got in the back of Kyle Petty. Petty was coming up the track trying to get up to speed after leaving pit road. Jeff Gordon just pitted. Kenseth pulling out of line on Petty on the front stretch. Little contact. Edwards coming out of the pits down on the bottom of the racetrack. This is going to be interesting. 3 wide middle. Edwards moved up. I thought he was going to sideswipe the 17. Kenseth's up into the wall. That's a Darlington stripe for the 17. I hesitated because I saw the 99 move and I thought he was going to wreck us. And when I moved up, I got in the wall. Truex was trying to pit, and he was in the 3rd lane going into the corner. That didn't help either. No wreck there. We stay green. Martin and Busch on pit road. Kurt Busch, that is. Casey Mears. Yeah, that's another good one. It could have been Casey Mears. Target car. Wasn't Dale Jr. He's still on the track behind us. 192 coming out of the pit lane. Stay out with Kenseth again here. Gonna swap to Mark Martin next as soon as he comes off of pit lane. We'll give him one more lap, then we'll swap to Martin. Martin is out of the pits now and up to speed. Kenseth up to third. Biffle on pit road. So Biff will get a pit from the lead. Biffle will lead that lap at the line. Rusty Wallace out in front right now. Kenseth to second. Kenseth will pit this time by. We'll go back to Mark Martin. I almost forgot to swap to him there. So Greg Biffle on pit road. Rusty Wallace still on the racetrack. Again, we're in the middle of our second stops of the race. Biffle back out onto the racetrack. Rusty Wallace still out there. And stays out again off turn 4 that time by. Another championship contenders leading laps. These are the first laps Greg Biffle's not led today, with Rusty leading in the middle of green flag pit stops. Rusty Wallace now coming into the pits. Might be the last car to hit pit road. I don't think Matt Kenseth is out. No, he is on pit road right now, so I think the lead's going to cycle back to Biffle. Wallace was able to lead about 3 or 4 laps. We'll run 2 more laps with the 6, then we'll go back to the 16 at Biffle for the rest of the race. So Greg Biffle back in the lead. Mr. Clean Crew have done their job. Mark Martin will be in 13th after the cycling of green flag stops. And Greg Biffle has a gaggle of cars in front of him if you look at the track map on the upper right-hand corner of the screen. So to Biffle we go. 4.4 second lead for the Biff. It was about 3.5 seconds leading into the pit stop, so he was able to gap his teammate Carl Edwards a little bit, even with Edwards pitting before him. Santiago Kid, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, who needs throwback schemes for Darlington in the Southern 500 when you're just playing a classic NASCAR game? You got all sorts of old paint schemes and old drivers. A lot of which no longer in the sport. So there's Jeremy Mayfield. He is right in front of Greg Biffle, so he's still in the race. Trying to stay on the lead lap right now. To the inside of Boris Said. Lap 134. Biffle's led all but 3 or 4 laps in the race, and that's because Rusty Wallace led during the second cycle of green flag stops. He was the last to pit. What a dominating performance it's been for Biffle, and largely due to the fact that he was able to get out to an early lead. His pit crew hasn't made any mistakes. No mistakes by Biffle either. He's only had one Darlington stripe this whole race. It was in turn 2 on lap 16. He's getting around lap traffic well. He's being smart when he needs to be. And we haven't had a caution to have to try to defend on a restart at all. Ricky Rudd holding Biffle up here for the last couple laps. Biffle to the inside of the 21 Wood Brothers Ford. Side by side into turn 1. Kenseth about to go lap down. Scott Riggs right in front of him. Biffle to the inside of Kenseth. Be the first Roush car to go a lap down. Mark Martin ran 2 seasons before retirement. After this, no. Because this is technically the 2005 season. So he ran for Roush in 06. And then he would have ran for the 01 car part-time for, I believe, just the 2 seasons. Yeah, he ran that 07, 08. And then 09 he went to Hendrick Motorsports for at least 2 full seasons. I think he ran 3 full seasons. 2009 to 2011 with Hendrick. Then he ran part-time at Michael Waltrip races, so he was far from retired. Even if we look at the full-time seasons. With Roush, yeah, he was almost done, but no, he had a lot more seasons after that. I mean, he didn't have many full... I mean, he only had technically 4 full-time seasons left after this. And probably like 5 or 6 part-time seasons. Because then he filled in for Tony Stewart when Stewart broke his leg in a sprint car accident. I think that was 2013. Austin Dillon ran some races too in that car. And Kyle Busch still in the race, so it's not an alternative scheme. Yeah, I'm almost thinking it might be Casey Kane that's out. Either Casey Kane or Casey Mears. One of the Caseys. Is it Casey with a C or Casey with a K that's out? We'll never know. Nobody that's in the running for the championship. That's all that really matters. We do know 100% that Mike Bliss is out. Biffle wiggled a bit. Jeff Burton giving him quite a bit of room, though. Still side by side with the 31. They'll stay side by side into turns 3 and 4. Burton now crowds the 16. Maybe thought he was going to be clear, but wasn't. Instead, Biffle will be the driver clear off turn 4. About 226 laps to go yet in the Southern 500 at Darlington. We're a little over an hour into the race. Long way still to go, but just gotta keep on keeping on if you're Greg Biffle. That's a Darlington stripe. First time he's gotten into the wall in turns 3 and 4. He just got a bit tight behind Kyle Busch. Burton got back around him, and Edwards was about 0.3 of a second quicker that last lap with the mistake from the Biff. Darlington stripe number 2. And the first time in 3 and 4, he got really loose off the exit. Turn 2 there with that deep dive. Back to the inside of Jeff Burton. Very close to making contact off turn 4. He's having a tough time here with these couple lap cars. Burton and Busch. Martin might have filled in for Hamlin, too. I do know he filled in for Tony Stewart, though, also. No. Oh, man, you're making me rethink it. Because Martin started the year in the 5 in 2011. And that crash from Hamlin at Auto Club is so early in the season. At Martinsville he did. Okay, so Martinsville he did. But that was it. I don't even remember that, honestly. Did he only run Daytona? I swear Mark Martin was in the 5 car in the Daytona 500 we watched like a month ago in 2011. Mad Mike Sports and Entertainment, thanks for tuning in. Filled in for Stewart after the Kevin Ward incident. Oh, I was thinking it was a different year. I was thinking it was the year Tony had his leg injury. Wasn't that back-to-back years? I can't remember what came first. But I thought it might have been like back-to-back years where that happened. I think Vickers filled in also in that 14 car at one point. Ran some races. The only time I remember anybody being competitive in the 14 car when Stewart was out of it at that time in those couple years was Austin Dillon at Talladega when he nearly flipped on the backstretch on the last lap while running like third. Like the only time I remember anybody even being remotely competitive in the car at the time. Because even Tony wasn't that competitive at that time too. Oh, 2013. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, you're right. I had my years mixed up. Hamlin got hurt in 2013. Yeah, so the timeline makes more sense. Just confusing myself. That's all I was doing. I was the only thing confusing about it. I was making it more confusing than it actually was. Edwards slowly closing that gap. It's down to about a 3.7 second lead. I mean, at one point it was 5.3. That was like a full tire stint ago. That's how much Biffle struggled trying to get by Jeff Burton and Kyle Busch. Once he got around him, he started pulling away, and now Travis Quaffle and Sterling Marlin, I believe, are the next two cars in front of the 16. Almost halfway home. And because Greg Biffle's only led, or has led, all but 3 or 4 laps, he's going to be very close to clinching the most laps led here before long. Nice to just get that out of the way as quick as possible. Alternate through the different camera angles one more time in today's race. Biffle's put a couple tenths on Edwards over the last couple laps again. Got the wall again off turn 2. I did that in the same camera angle, I think, back on lap 16, if I'm not mistaken. Like that 3 Darlington stripes. I wouldn't want to say it's fatigue setting in, but maybe it's fatigue setting in. Yeah, I mean, you're right. For a track nearly a mile and a half in length at 367 laps, it is a lot. Such a demanding track, too. Good track for NASCAR's return to COVID 2020. Yeah, for sure. I mean, just knowing that it's a great racetrack for racing. It's pretty cool to see Darlington on the schedule a couple times. And honestly, if they didn't do that, maybe they wouldn't even have 2 races at Darlington anymore. Because at the time, they only had 1 scheduled race there. And then it's like, okay, they're going to Darlington 3 times now on the season. And ever since then, we've ran there 2 dates a year. It's a great track before, since, during. So, yeah, definitely helped out Darlington Raceway in the long run. And I think a lot of fans are appreciative of Darlington having more than 1 race date. I know I am. Some of the more fun races on the season, especially in the Xfinity Series. They have like instant classics like every year there now. Oh man, I didn't mean to intimidate Shane Meal. Accidentally hit that. I'm glad he didn't spin right in front of me. That would have been terrible. I don't think I've ever accidentally hit the intimidate button before. Right in line behind him. Trying to get to the inside off turn 2. I think he's there. Halfway through this fuel run right now. Biffle has cleared Meal off turn 4. Hops in line behind Quaffle in the 77. Probably help with North Wilkesboro too. I mean, potentially. I don't know how much that really had to correlate with each other. Because they're not even owned. Like, NASCAR owns Darlington and SMI is running Wilkesboro, so I don't really think that had much to do with it. Still side by side, and now probably clear in the back straightaway. There's Biffle on Quaffle, so Biffle moved up. Big run into turn 3 for the Biff. He gets to the inside of Sterling Marlin off turn 4. Contact with the 40. Barely cleared Terry Labonte off the exit of turn 2 as well. Down to almost 200 laps to go. Still just the 2 cars out of the race. Mike Bliss and somebody with a red back bumper. That's all we know. Gonna say to either Casey Mears or Casey Kane at this point with the drivers we've still seen on track during the lap traffic run. 3.5 second lead. Not the biggest lead of the race, but still a comfortable one for Greg Biffle. Ready for the brand new Texas Motor Speedway? Not really. I mean, as bad as Texas is, I'd rather have it. I don't know that I'd rather have it now than a super speedway. I don't know. That's actually kind of a tough situation. I wish they could just put it back to the way it was, really. Like, if they just never changed the banking and we just had a repave, it'd be bad, but it wouldn't be this bad. I think it'd be cool if they made a flatter 1.5 miles, kind of like Old Vegas or Homestead or something like that. I mean, not Homestead necessarily, more Vegas because of the shape of how the grandstands are. I think that'd be pretty cool if you want uniqueness for 1.5 miles. There isn't any on the schedule anymore like that. I thought Old Vegas put on some good races. I mean, New Vegas puts on good races too with the banking, but I do like that it was different because now we have a lot of tracks that look like Vegas. Like Vegas and Kansas are basically the same track. Chicagoland, like they're all similar in shape, banking. Kansas might be a little bit wider than the other two. I guess Vegas is probably the most narrow of them. But they all kind of look the same. They race the same. Multi-grooves. If they were to reconfigure it, that's what I'd say they should do. But then, I mean, see, that's the thing, though, is that on the internet, I feel like fans would complain about it the first couple races because freshly paved track and it's flat. I mean, it doesn't really... And that's one thing, too, I guess. The flatter tracks with the next gen hasn't produced the greatest racing. So maybe for that reason I take it back, but I'd like to think that they'll be able to solve that problem after some point in time. Still just kind of riding this race out. Wondering if we're going to get a caution. Craig Franklin said lap 288. That was his guess. We were to see a yellow. We're still ways from that, but like I said, this is helping Greg Biffle, so I'm not complaining. The more tame the race, the more comfortable I'm going to feel. I'm not going to sweat or anything knowing our championship deficit coming in. And especially with Edwards in second. Don't want a chance for him to get around us on a restart just to lead a lap even. I mean, the way the season's shaping up, it could come down to just a couple points at Talladega. I'm curious as to how many drivers are going to have a shot at the championship going into that final race of the year. Right now, it's looking like it'll be 3. If Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson could put on a late charge and get just a little bit of help, they might have a shot at the title going into Dega in the final race. If we have like 4 or 5 drivers with a chance, anybody could win. I mean, you go into Dega with a shot at the title, even if you're like 150 points out of first, it's not impossible that you could take home the championship. Of all tracks to be going to, that would probably be the one you would want to have that situation come into play. Somebody gets in the big one early, like an Edwards or a Sadler, and right in it. As long as they, of course, win the race, but they'll be in it. Gordon's won 2 races this year. Jimmy Johnson hasn't. Highest driver in the point standings without a win. I think him and Mike Bliss are the only 2 in the top 10 without any wins. Quarter tank of gas left this point in the run. Very closely approaching the halfway mark. The next stop will be the 3rd of the race. Biffle went 67 laps on the first run, but then he only went 60 laps on the second run. And we've got our first takers pitting for the third time today on lap 179. Right rear in the yellow and the tire wear indicator for Biffle. Probably has abused his tires a little bit more during this run than any of the other runs in the race. Especially when he was battling Jeff Burton and Kyle Busch at the beginning of the run. And the right front's in the yellow. Biffle's only gone about 47 laps since his last stop. Be interesting if Rusty Wallace stays out a few laps longer than him again. We know Edwards has been one of the first cars to pit, so I would imagine, considering we're still green, that he's going to continue to do that. The only way he wouldn't is if we end up having a caution at some point in time, which kind of evens the pit strategy out if everybody pits under the yellow. That's another reason I don't want a caution, especially if I'm in second. If he beats us off pit road, gets 5 bonus points that way, even if I get back around him on the restart. Edwards is coming in. If we were to get a yellow in the middle, green flag stops, while Edwards is a lap down would be the best thing. There'll be another shot at it right now while Biffle will lap Edwards the next time by. Got an eighth of a tank of fuel left for Biffle, so he should be able to run this out a little bit longer yet. Just got word from his crew chief. But with Edwards pitting earlier, can he cut into that lead? That was about 3.2 to 3.3 seconds over Biffle. 28.499 that last lap. Biffle picked up the pace quite a bit that lap out of nowhere. Pretty impressive this old of tires. Not too many more cars on the lead lap that still have to pit. A few of them are right in front of Biffle, Dale Jarrett, Tony Stewart, and Mark Martin. Left rear starting to wear out a little bit as well. No, we'll be alright. I have a good idea of about how far we can go. Fuel indicator isn't even dark red yet either. Usually it turns to that, you can go a couple more laps. Super speedways it's tough, but track a little shorter than 1.5 miles, we should be able to go about 4 or 5 more laps after that. If we wanted to push it that far, I'll probably only take it like maybe 3 laps beyond that point, just to make sure. Be safe. Big power slide into turn 3 there from Biffle. I was not getting on the brakes because of Dale Jarrett pitting. I was not locking the brakes out. That was just the rear tires squealing a little bit. Biffle has just locked in the most laps led after leading that last lap at the line, so 10 bonus points is clinched right before his third stop. That Smokey C was from Biffle the lap before. Not sure if maybe Tony Stewart or Mark Martin got a pit here. They do not. Off the exit of turn 4. Contact between Martin and Stewart. Slows them both up. Biffle's got to run now as he gets underneath the 6. Can't quite get to the inside of Tony Stewart. He has cleared Martin off turn 2, though. And Stewart will pit this time. Biffle checked up a little bit going into the corner. Trying not to get in the back of Stewart, causing a caution. Causes a yellow. He cannot pit for fuel or tires. But if we get a caution that he isn't involved in right now, it would be perfect. Chap, a lot of cars a lap down, including the championship leaders that are still ahead of Biffle in points of Elliott Sadler and Carl Edwards. Lap 190 at the line. Greg Biffle will pit this time by. There's Casey Mears, so I think Casey Kane is out. I was way off. I said Terry Labonte earlier when I saw that car blowing up. So Biffle will pit this time. It'll be the third green flag stop of the day. And he is in. It'll be 4 tires and fuel for Greg Biffle. No adjustments. Hasn't made a single adjustment all day. I guess we'll see that car right now. It is not Casey Kane. It's the fantasy driver. I think it's the 141. It looked like a fantasy driver, so I guess Kane's still in the race too. We were all wrong. Wouldn't have guessed that. I wasn't sure who the other fantasy car was. I think that's Parker in the 141. Mr. Clean Crew going to work. Dropping the jack. Biffle's off and away from pit road. Biffle's still in the lead. Hasn't really lost much time from pit road. Pretty even again with Edwards. Lost a couple tenths to him, and that was about it. 2 to 3 tenths. Maybe 3 to 4 tenths at the most. He's got a 2.9 second lead. That's big. Keeping Edwards from leading any laps. So pit at lap 190. If he goes 67 laps again, up to pit at about lap 257. So it should be a 2-stop race to the end, which would guarantee it's going to be a 5-stop race total. Which we kind of assumed that would be the case. Martin cycle ahead of Stewart on pit road, even though Stewart was ahead of him leading into their stops. And pitted a little bit before him too. Biffle on the inside of Smoke off turn number 4. Stu had a run in the last time we were at Darlington, but they are not rivals anymore. The middle portion of the season. This is a 400-mile race. We'd only have one more stop left, and we'd be at about 102 to go, but not today. .277. That last lap for Greg Biffle. A blistering fast lap. His fastest of the day. Got a little loose off turn 2. He was way too low off the exit of the corner as he was under Martin trying to make a pass. Right off the heels of running his fastest lap by far in this race. By almost 1/10 of a second. And followed that up with a 28.8 because of how loose I got off turn 2. More cars he puts a lap down for the first time, the harder and harder it's going to be to pass those guys because they're going to be much quicker than most of the cars, if not all of them that he has lapped so far. Little contact there with Martin. Leans on him. Overran the corner a bit. Clears him off turn number 4. Biffle almost got in the wall as well. Down to 170 laps to go. Biffle power slides a little bit. And 1 and 2 again. 3 wide. Contact! Oh, into the wall! Biffle slides in, saves it off the inside as they were 3 wide off turn 4. Wow! Here comes Edwards. 3-second lead gone. I thought Biffle was going head-on into the inside wall off of turn 4 there for a second. He did not. We stay green. No caution through that. Edwards is in the wall now as he overdrives turns 3 and 4. No Darlington stripe there. I don't know how Biffle kept it off. Jesus. Oh, Pete. Moments happen. I mean, they just happen sometimes. And that could have been very costly. That probably made everybody's eyebrows raise a little bit. You can lower them again. We're okay. Still in the lead. But not by 3 seconds anymore, unfortunately. Wasn't really a lot of contact. I don't know how they didn't wreck. I thought Johnson and Kane were going to wreck quite a bit. Biffle got into Kane in the middle of the corner, which washed the 9 up into the 48. Kind of got sandwiched, and then Biffle got tagged a second time after Kane basically pinballed off the 48 back into the 16. I really hope that didn't burn the tires too far off the car here for Biffle. It's going to be tough. I mean, he was struggling to get around those lap cars, obviously, as you saw. Probably could have been a little bit more patient, but now he can't because Edwards is right there. And he needs to make sure that Carl does not lead any laps. It's just the second time we've seen 3 wide at Darlington today, and first time it was all right. I guess it was the third time because I remember Edwards coming out of the pits when we were driving his Kenseth. Made it a little dicey going into 3. It was the third time we've seen 3 wide today, second around Biffle. We got lucky there was no contact the first 2 times. That time there was. You can see the skid marks off the exit of turn 4. And if you look at the skid marks that were placed by Biffle off turn 4, you can see that it looked as if we were going head-on into the inside wall. I don't know how I got that corrected as quickly as I did. Watch the skid marks when we pass by turn 4 this time. Right there. The big ones from the middle of the track all the way down to the... all the way down towards the wall. Then you see like no skid mark into the wall. Just kind of straightens out. Definitely lock the tires up. Biffle into the wall. Here comes Edwards. Oh man, Biffle leads, barely. After Darlington stripe, Edwards underneath to the lead. Biffle trying to cross him over off turn 2 to the inside. Can't get there. Drives it in deep into turns 3 and 4, needs to get to him. Trying to use Dale Jarrett as a pick. He might do it. To the line. Biffle leads that lap barely. Edwards still has not led today. After qualifying on the pole. Still using Jarrett as a pick, but can't clear either one. Side drafting Edwards on the back straightaway. Just the 4th Darlington stripe of the day. The 2nd in 3 and 4. Almost costed Biffle the lead there. Biffle still leading. Hasn't cleared Jarrett. Edwards is clinging on the outside still into turn 1. Biffle now will clear Jarrett off of turn 2. And you can definitely tell the pressure could be getting to Biffle here. Making that mistake that he really hadn't done all day. For the most part, over 200 laps in. But he does still lead. Edwards has gotten by Dale Jarrett. Trying to apply more pressure to Biffle. Looks like Jarrett's going to get to the inside of the 99 through 3 and 4. That's going to hold Edwards up a little bit. That's what Biffle needs. I think I see a slow car on the front stretch right now that just blew an engine. I don't think he's on pit road. It looks like he's going faster pit road speed. Edwards gets back by Dale Jarrett. Oh, I think it's Rusty Wallace. He was in the top 5 all day. What a tough break. I think Rusty Wallace has just blown a motor. One of his better runs of the season is now over. A little earlier than what he wanted it to be. We're just past the halfway mark. Heartbreaker there for Rusty, a chance to potentially get his final win. And he's going to have 4 more attempts, but that is a tough break. He's the only other driver to lead in today's race other than Greg Biffle. Led 3 or 4 laps in the middle of green flag pit stops, but again, he was in the top 5 the whole race too. He's finally made his way to pit road. Biffle gets into the wall again. Off turn 4. And the Darlington stripe counter's up to 5. 2 of which on this run. Which is the 4th set of tires he's on today, if you count the set he had at the start of the race. He's just starting to get away and put a little bit of separation between him and Edwards until he got into the wall again, and now Edwards is within a half a car length again. Third on back, nowhere to be found. We're being 200 laps into this green flag run to start tonight's race. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the last night race of the season too. Just kind of realized that all of a sudden. Three cars out, 40 still in. Definitely have more lap traffic Biffle's going to have to deal with here. Getting to the inside of his teammate Mark Martin, not quite. Now he will in turns 3 and 4. Tony Stewart in that middle to upper groove. Can't quite get underneath him yet. I think when Carl Edwards pits, because he's been one of the first cars to pit during green flag pit stops, I think Biffle's got to pit right after him to make sure that Edwards doesn't cycle in front. Biffle's done a great job getting to pit road, and his pit crew's done a great job on pit road, keeping him in the lead every time, but the lead has not been this close since really the start of the race. I don't think Biffle could afford to take a risk of giving up even just a half a second, because Edwards could lead a lap off of that. He's got to do what he can to maintain the lead. Up 220. Casey Kane trying to fight, not go a lap down here. Biffle underneath him into 1 and 2. Not a lot of room. Edwards underneath Tony Stewart back there. Biffle still underneath Kane. Can't clear him. Casey's got some damage on the front of his car after that contact and being sandwiched between Johnson and Biffle. I wonder if he's going to lose that hood before the end of the race. It's crinkled quite a bit. Casey is now the first car lap down. Biffle with a run. John Andretti, Jimmy Johnson. Oh, contact, looked like, nearly at least, between Johnson and the 192. Biffle underneath Andretti, getting into turns 1 and 2. Slides a little bit. Casey Kane holding up Carl Edwards. Once Biffle gets past these 4 cars, he's going to have a little more clean air again. Edwards has cleared Kane off turn 4. Biffle is just stuck behind Andretti right now, and he cannot get around him. Halfway through the fuel run for Biffle. Contact with Andretti. He's just not able to get underneath him. And again, Edwards is there as John Andretti has been holding Greg Biffle up. Biffle again to the inside in turns 1 and 2. Finally clears him. Johnson's left rear fender's kind of flared out a little bit as well with the damage. The contact from Kane. Biffle doesn't really have any damage from it. Johnson clears Truex. Biffle follows the 48. Got into the 1 on the front straightaway a little bit. Clears Truex. Biffle's got about a half a second lead built up on Edwards again. Struggling to get by the 48 a second time. $140 laps to go in the Southern 500. Biffle underneath Jimmy Johnson. Oh, not quite. And Johnson's definitely holding Biffle up again because Carl Edwards has just got by Truex. Lead is not 0.6 of a second anymore. It's down to almost 0.3 of a second off the exit of turn 4. Contact between the 16 and the 48. Biffle trying to stay under Johnson, still door to door. Contact again. Edwards is there. Biffle finally clears the 48. The 99 quickly underneath the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. I mean, Biffle's got to race like every lap's the last lap right now with Edwards behind him because he just does not want him to lead a lap at all costs. Johnson trying to cross Edwards over. Took a peek to the inside, couldn't get there. Edwards was running the top. He was giving Jimmy a little room. Lost a bit of ground because of that to Biffle. Biffle into the wall. Darlington stripe number 6. That's going to give Edwards a run on the outside. Biffle just wanted to protect the bottom. Into turns 3 and 4, so Biffle will hold clear off the exit of turn 4 again. Biffle again has already locked in the most laps led. He's not worried about that. Just doesn't want the 99 to lead any. I mean, we'd get out of Dodge if he finds a way to not lead a lap in this race after qualifying on the pole. I mean, that's like almost guaranteed you're going to lead the first lap more often than not, but he didn't. Biffle beat him off the start after qualifying second. There's not too many tracks that actually have good launches on the restart with the gearing I usually use. But I was able to make it work here at Darlington. Late enough in the run. I mean, if Edwards can get close enough to the 16, could get him arrow loose potentially. Edwards gets gapped though that time through 3 and 4, 28.475. Initially on the early going of the run before that big save Biffle had off turn 4, the contact with Kane and Johnson when they were 3 wide, he was in the 28.2s. At least had one lap that quick. 28.4 is about where he was a run or two ago. He's kind of progressively picked up a 10th after every single time he's pitted. You'd have to imagine his tires have had a little more shot this time. That's another reason why pitting not long after Edwards is probably a good idea. His tires haven't been this burnt out this early in the run this entire race. We started to see pit stops at lap 179. Edwards came down a couple laps after that. So he's got to be getting close to having to pit again. Really anybody to pit at any given moment for the 4th time today. We'll have 130 to go at the line, so still a good window to make it on 2 stops to the end from here. Biffle not worried about that at all. Corey Freight, thanks for tuning in. The only risk, too, though, is getting trapped a lap down if we actually get a caution in the middle of green flag pit stops. Then both Edwards and Biffle would be a lap down. That would be costly. That'd be huge for Elliott Sadler. We haven't really seen him in a long time. He was as high as 2nd very early in the race. And we've got cars pitting off turn 4 this time. We'll contact to Jason Leffler and Greg Biffle off of turn 4. Biffle trying to make a pass on the FedEx number 11 car. Clears them into turns 1 and 2. There's the right rear wearing out in the yellow. It was not going away this early in the run the last time. Edwards stays out again as he gets to the inside of Leffler off of turn 4. They're side by side. Quarter of a tank of gas left for Biffle at this point in the run. So we're approaching our 4th pit stop of the day. This is going to be the biggest pit stop to this point in the race. Knowing how close the lead is. Closer now than really ever before. We got a car blowing up. Trying to get to pit road. Be Scott Riggs in the 10. Tough break for him. He qualified top 10. Was running there most of the race as well. So both him and Rusty Walls, who were in the top 10 at one point, are going to be done with engine failures. Just after lap 200. Edwards staying out again. Biffle got loose off turn 4. He gets into the wall, and Edwards is gonna... I don't know if he led that lap. That was close. He's gonna lead the next one, though, if he stays out. Biffle just got loose off turn 4. Got up into the wall. His 7th Darlington stripe. Kind of got hit from behind, too, by Shane Meal. Edwards will stay out this time. If he didn't lead the last lap, he's going to lead this time. And that's going to be 5 bonus points for Carl Edwards. Dang. It's as loose as he's gotten without contact. Probably this whole race. Hope the Packers win today. It's going to be tough. Minnesota's a very good team. Kurt Busch on his way in. Edwards is out there. Well, that's a cat-and-mouse game. Who's going to pit first? I mean, Edwards has already led. So, I mean, Biffle doesn't have to pit, but his tires are also shot. Compared to what they once were. He's trying to reel Edwards back in again, though. And he has over the last few laps. Going low off turn 2, side by side for the lead. Little contact. They're still side by side into 1 and 2. These two are teammates, but they're championship foes. And battling for the lead at Darlington with just over 100 laps left. Biffle just cannot clear the 99. He's driving it in really deep just to try to stay with him into the corner. Up the track they go. There's a little bit more contact. And Biffle is back in the lead. That could have been a wreck at the angle that Biffle made contact with the 99. Biffle could have got pin nailed into the wall as he got loose off of turn 2, back across the track and into the wall. Overcorrected at that time. Edwards is coming in, so is Biffle. Trying to get as much time back as he can into the pits, and he pulls alongside, gets around Edwards, and he has crashed on pit road. Oh my gosh. No! Caution is out. And I think it's because of the crash on pit road, but the yellow flag is out. We're stuck. I have never seen this before. This is unbelievable. We hit the commitment line before the caution came out. Okay, now we're rolling. This is unbelievable. I've never, of all things that could have happened, this is like the most unpredictable. I didn't think that was possible in this game. That was like a NASCAR 21 style pit stop. I came in hot, but then I got the car. I didn't speed coming into the pits. Now it's, I think, a race between the 99 and the 16 in the pits right now. And the field should be frozen. We were ahead of him when the caution came out. I don't know if we're going to be a lap down, though. I don't think we are. Edwards is going to win the race out here for now. This is turned this thing upside down. First caution of the day. right in the middle of green flag pit stops. And the caution is going to be for Tony Stewart, I guess. Who was back, he was backing way up on pit road. He can't go backwards. That's why we have a caution here. It's for Tony Stewart, technically, so it's not us. John Andretti was wedging himself against the wall trying to get around everybody. Biffle in the lead, I guess, when the caution came out. That was wild, to say the least. Junior going to be the first car lap down to the restart. Green flag back in the air. Sadler's a lap down. That's massive. But Biffle leads. Trying to get by Earnhardt on the restart. He makes contact with him. Oh my gosh. Not like being on the outside that close to the wall there. Hanging on to it. Gordon back on the lead lap. Same with Dale Jr. Trying to keep Sadler a lap down. The 2 is in this race still, so I guess he didn't blow an engine. I thought he did. I guess not. Where's Edwards? I would have thought he would have been right behind us. I don't know. He's still in it. He's still in the race. There's no X over it. Somehow he lost a lot of spots. Contact with Dale Jr. Greg Biffle underneath the 8. He'll make the pass on him into turn 1. This race is turned upside down with that caution. Still one stop to the end, though. Whatever championship hopes Jeff Gordon has, he's trying to keep alive if he can get a quick yellow while he's on the lead lap. And even if he goes a lap down, if he could be the first car lap down, that'd be massive for him. Biffle just cannot get around the 24. Gordon's showing the strength in his car right now with Biffle trying to get underneath him, and he just can't get there. And actually, Gordon's leading the race. He is not a lap down. I stand corrected there. Sorry for that. So Gordon getting 5 bonus points for leading these last few laps. Took the lead from Biffle in the restart, so now it's actually side by side for the lead between Biffle and Gordon. Biffle clear off turn 2. Gordon trying to get his 3rd win of the year and another Southern 500 win to his career. I know Dale Jr. was a lap down the restart because he was lined up on the inside of Biffle. So Dale Jr. is the first car lap down. Gordon in 2nd, out of pretty much nowhere, right behind Biffle. He's got a little help, considering he's having a good run. I mean, Biffle is 110 points out at first. He will have to catch him eventually. It's not the worst thing for Gordon that Biffle's leading. Sadler's a lap down, so he's going to finish well ahead of him, you would think. As long as he makes it to the end of the race, still gets a good finish. I mean, maybe don't count Jeff Gordon out of the championship in his drive for 5. $110 laps to go in the Southern 500. One caution in the middle of green flag stops. Let's turn the race on its side. There's no way Edwards would be a lap down, you would think. Somebody might have gotten into the wall off turn 4 or something. We'll know when we get back into 3 and 4 this time by if there's any smoke. I just saw the track map. It's a massive gap in the middle of the pack now. Biffle gets loose. Off of turn 2. Gordon's going to get a run at him again. Can't get around him. Yeah, I don't know what happened off turn 4 that last lap, but stacked up a lot of cars. Like maybe 7 ahead of this pack. That was a tire smoke from Biffle the lap before we just went through off turn 2. Lap 263 of 367, just over 100 laps to go. The Dodge Charger Southern 500. Biffle has dominated the race. It's nice to have fresh tires back on the car again. Out of nowhere, Jeff Gordon trying to emerge as maybe a new favorite to win the race late, or at least a contender at that, as he has led laps off this last restart. Field all compacted together again for the first time since the beginning of the day. Craig Franklin's still in the chat, by the way. We might still get a caution at 288. You never know, but it wouldn't be the first one. I don't even know what lap that was when that caution came out because we were on pit road. Biffle into the wall an 8th time off of turn 2. Gordon looking for a run big, blocked by Biffle getting into turn 3. 100 to go at the line. We had like one Darlington stripe for, I don't know exactly how many laps it was, but it was like over 100. And we've had 7 in about the last 100. We're trying to dial it back in again. That's how these long races kind of get to you mentally. It is hard to stay fully focused, even as many times as I've done this. To have that precision for this long. It's a difficult, daunting task. Everybody has to pit one more time. Those who did not pit prior to the caution did pit under the yellow. So it is an easy one-stop race to the end. Get to about 67 laps to go. That window will open up to make it on field to the end of the race. Biffle's going to take this run as far as he possibly can, though, this time. Edwards already has led. So he's not worried about Edwards getting 5 bonus points anymore. And Elliott Sadler is a lap down. Not sure how far back Sadler is potentially running. Maybe there's a chance that Biffle could end up moving to second in points after today's race. You never know. It's massive for Carl Edwards. He might lose points to Biffle with where he's running right now, but he might end up pulling away from Sadler a bit more. A win guarantees Biffle is going to be less than 100 out of first. Even if Edwards finishes in second, because Edwards will have 5 bonus points to Biffle's 10, and Biffle will have a 10-point increment between first and second. So it'll be at least a 15-point gain on Edwards with a win today, and then every position on back from there, you got 5 points and 5 points. So, I mean, there is a chance. 4 points per position between 6th and 10th, and 3 per position from 11th on back. Got a little bit loose off turn 4 that time. You just gotta hope he doesn't get aero loose as we get deeper into this run, if Gordon's still gonna be applying pressure on the back bumper of the 16. Well, he did that time. He saw the rear tires kind of come off from underneath him a bit, and Gordon gets to the inside off turn 4. Biffle staying in front. Big block on the front stretch. Again, Dale Jr. is not in 3rd place. He is a lap down. I think Rusty Wallace is as well back there. Biffle does not get aero loose that time through 3 and 4, and again holds on to the lead. "90 laps to go this time by. Dale Jr. to the inside of Jeff Gordon off turn 2. Clears him. Jr. would like to get back on the lead lap. Gordon across the 8 over. Got 20 likes on the stream. Appreciate you guys hitting that like button. First stream of the new year on the channel. And it is an interesting one to say the least. Crown Jewel. Championship. Basically on the line from here on out. Biffle has to be near perfect as he tries to go for his 14th win of the season. And cut into that 110-point deficit on Edwards. Both have led. Biffle's led the most. Biffle gets loose off of turn 4. I think he got aero loose there from Jeff Gordon, and Gordon will get to the lead. Biffle going to be sliding his way into 1 and 2 still. And Jeff Gordon leads at Darlington. The blink of an eye, something like that could happen. Biffle did a great job not hitting the wall. Drove his way out of it. Biffle's got to get around a pretty strong 8 car of Dale Jr. as well before he can have another shot at Gordon. Gordon never touched him. Halfway through the fuel run. Fastest lap by Biffle out of nowhere, 28.268. He'll get to the inside of Dale Jr. in turns 1 and 2. Into 3 and 4, big dive as he closes on Gordon. Off the exit of the corner. 28.250, again the fastest lap for Biffle. 2 laps in a row, he's ran his quickest lap of the race, and he gets to the inside of Gordon. And they're side by side for the lead through turns 1 and 2. Gordon holding on the outside. Biffle can't stay underneath him. Biffle again doesn't get loose on the apron with all 4 tires. Just can't pass the 24. Gordon's been strong when he's been out in front. We didn't know that until this run. Biffle trying to enter on the outside, then cut it down to the bottom rather than going bottom top to bottom. Or bottom all the way around the corner. .80 laps left. So close. It's a clean battle between these two, I'll give them that. Oh, there's contact. Biffle into the wall. Didn't take much. Just slight bit of contact on Gordon's left rear, and he got loose off turn 2. Overcorrected it into the wall. That's very similar to when he got loose off turn 2 when Edwards was with him earlier. The difference with Edwards, there was no contact. There was contact that time, and now Jeff Gordon's got a 2-second lead. Dale Jr. and Rusty Wallace side by side off turn 4 for the free pass position. Still not exactly sure who the third place car might be. I think Kurt Busch is back there, but I don't know if he's on the lead lap or not. Due to how the pit stops ended up cycling out. Biffle's pushing hard trying to keep to Gordon, and he just pushed a little too hard. Surprised the contact at the point of Gordon's car didn't affect Gordon at all, but it affected Biffle. Plenty of time to get back up there. I don't know that he's going to be able to do it with these tires on the car right now, though, but he's still going to have one more pit stop to get fresh tires back on there and hope for the best. 9 Darlington stripes today after getting into the wall in the backstretch, as we saw. Not that, actually, I think that was 10. 10 Darlington stripes today. And we have hit double digits. Good thing it's not a 400-mile Darlington race, because Jeff Gordon would be on the final lap right now, and instead we have another 100 miles to go. That would have been the race. We saw in our truck race at California late last night that despite Harold Jackson leading over 60 laps of the 100, he did not win. Finished second. Passed with a few laps to go by eventual winner Ricky Craven, who led just 7. Now, Gordon's going to lead more than 7 laps today. And more than 7% of the laps, really, that was led by Craven yesterday. But he has a shot after really not being there at all the first 2/3 of the race. Again, Biffle in the wall off turn 4 rather. Lost a couple tenths again. And Jeff Gordon just emerged out of nowhere, really. If it wasn't for that caution, he would not have had a shot to win today's race. The field bunch back up again. Here we go. Few laps shy of the pit window opening up to the end of the race. May see some takers. Again, our only caution in this race was during green flag pit stops the last time. Surprisingly, this isn't the worst that Biffle's tires have been. I'd say the last run, they were a lot worse than what it was this run. But still, over these last 2 runs, he has not taken care of his tires as well as he did earlier in the race, which has allowed other drivers to really get back into this. It's just how perfect you have to be from start to finish. You got to run a full race. We'll have 300 laps complete at the start-finish line this time by. We'll have officially 67 laps to go, which means you can make it on fuel from now to the end. The window is open. Still think the best thing for Biffle, his pit crew has been really good today. Push this as far as you can on fuel, so your tires aren't as worn out at the very end of the race like they have been these last couple runs. Allow yourself to push harder and not have to pay the repercussions of it, of having to go a full fuel run again. Pit crew's been awesome all day. Caution, well that changes everything. Our second yellow of the race looked like trouble in turns 3 and 4. And it's going to be Dale Jarrett who goes for a spin. Everybody missed him as he goes down into the grass in 3 and 4. All on his own. Man, hard hit too. Truex just missed him to the inside. McMurray just checked up in time without hitting him as well. A single car spin brings out a caution. Biffle will pit, as will everybody else. Just inside the fuel window to make it to the end, so I guess these guys are going to have to go about a full run to the finish now. It wasn't looking like that before, but now they'll pit. And this is the money stop. Not everybody on pit road, but a lot of the lead lap cars are definitely in the pits. Another clean stop. Jeff Gordon wins the race off pit road. Biffle loses a few spots.
We are deep in the field.
I know Rusty Wallace was a lap down. I'm not sure how many cars were on the lead lap versus a lap down. Biffle pretty far back. Rusty, I guess, is on the lead lap again. Green flag back in the air. It'll be Ryan Newman who will lead the field to the green. A bit of a stack up there on the restart. Somebody spun their tires. Biffle had to get out of the gas to keep it off the back of the 2 as he restarts in 9th. 63 laps to go. Ryan Newman in the lead for the first time today at Darlington. Big stack up off the exit of the corner again as they make their way into turns 3 and 4. We got a couple cars pitting down on the bottom of the racetrack. And it is time to go. There were some lead lap cars that did stay out. Contact with his teammate Martin. Biffle needs to go, but you don't want to do that and burn the tires off again. Making contact 3 wide. Spencer Martin on the outside. Oh my gosh, that was close. Biffle to 5th. Couple lead lap cars have pitted. Kurt Busch leads for the first time today. 5 bonus points for the 6th place driver in points. Harvick gets by Gordon, I believe, for position. Kurt Busch stays out again. Somebody else on the lead lap just pitted. So I believe Harvick's 2nd, Gordon 3rd, Biffle 4th, and then Kurt Busch leads, but Busch has to pit yet. So the battle for the eventual lead would be right here between Gordon, Harvick, and Biffle. Biffle to the inside of Gordon, off of turn 2. And stays to the inside into 3. Gonna use the lap car of Jeremy Mayfield as a pick. He clears him and gets to the inside of Harvick off turn 4 as well. 59 laps to go. Biffle trying to get underneath Kevin Harvick desperately. Can't. Gordon's still stuck behind Mayfield. Lap car pits of Casey Kane. Biffle to the inside of Harvick for 2nd. Trying to use Vickers as a pick. And he will be able to do so successfully. He clears both Vickers and Harvick off turn 2. Harvick still stuck behind the 25. Kurt Busch may be pitting this time, which would give Greg Biffle the lead, and that is the case. Boris said a lap down also comes in. New leader at the line, and it is going to be Greg Biffle out in front as Vickers is still holding up Kevin Harvick. Biffle back in the lead shortly after the restart. He's got Casey Mears, Kenny Wallace right underneath him, 3 wide. Biffle wants to go. Gonna get by Kenny Wallace that time. Down to the inside of Casey Mears. contact with Casey and he couldn't get around him. Slowed him up quite a bit. Kevin Harvick trying to make a late charge. Now Mears is going to pit, so that was all for nothing. It's going to give clean air to the 16, though, so I guess he'll take it. Yeah, there weren't that many cars that pitted when that caution came out. I'm quite surprised considering they were just inside the window to make it on fuel. They have to go about 65, 66 laps. Biffle made it 67 on that first run, so he should have no problem making it to the end. And that's not counting the caution laps either, so. Yeah, should be good. So Biffle is first. Kevin Harvick in second. He hasn't led it all yet today, but now he is in contention all of a sudden to try to get his first win of the year. And then Jeff Gordon is in third. No clue where Edwards is at. No clue where Sadler's at. We've had 2 cautions, both in the second half of the race. Went over 200 laps caution-free to start things off today. Car on pit road as if somebody blew an engine after the restart, too. I'm not sure who that is. Towards the entrance of pit road. Actually, it is not anybody that blew an engine. It's just the lap car that waited a lot longer than everybody else to pit. It's a little bit of a shake-up in the probably right around the three-quarter mark stretch of the race for Greg Biffle. But after all of the drama there for that short period of time, he is back in the lead now. Hoping it stays green to the end, and it's just a fight between him, Harvick, and then potentially Jeff Gordon if the 29 to 16 could really get to battling with each other here. And the one who's going to make the least amount of mistakes is going to be the victor. Championship on the line for Gordon and Biffle. More so for Biffle than Gordon, but Gordon's not out of it. Kevin Harvick just trying to get that first win of the year at a historic racetrack at that. One of the longest running in NASCAR history in this prestigious race. "50 laps to go." The Dodge Charger Southern 500. And Harvick has put a lot of pressure on Biffle. He's kind of slowly reeled him in over the last few laps. Emerging out of nowhere, hasn't led a lap all day. Biffle power slides a little bit into 1 and 2. He will hold on to the lead. Gotta save those tires. Billy Kramer, welcome into the stream. Whoever that is up ahead is a lap car. Got around the leaders on the restart. Some of the other ones had to pit under green. There aren't many that pitted under caution, so there can't be too many cars that are on the lead lap. Yeah, Biffle went up the hill a little bit in 3, and here comes Harvick trying to take his first lead of the race. Biffle going to slam the door shut as he holds on. Biffle got off turn 4 really well off that outside lane. Puts a little gap and separation between himself and the 29 again into 1 and 2 as well, the very next corner. It's like Biffle really made a mistake there. I think Harvick just had a much better entry, and Biffle's car kind of sailed up the hill just a little bit. In a weird enough spot that Harvick was able to nearly capitalize, but not to the fullest extent that Harvick would have liked to have capitalized. I'm sure he would have liked to have gotten to the lead there. Got close. Gonna be playing golf tomorrow? Yeah, we're not gonna be able to play here. It's supposed to be like 65 on Tuesday, I think, at my house, but they're not gonna have the courses open. Not after the cold weather that went through. The ground's gonna be way too soft. Had some rain this weekend, too, on top of it. I'm assuming you're talking about the Lions game, 31-10? Who's up, Detroit? .41 laps left. The Dodge Charger Southern 500. Biffle, Harvick, Gordon, 1, 2, 3. Biffle has dominated the race. He's led over a couple hundred laps. It's going to be pretty darn close to about 300 laps led if he leads all the way to the end here. Had a couple cautions in the second half of this race, which have kind of closed the field a little bit to the 16. There was no real pressure before that. Had a caution in the middle of green flag stops, which if it would have came out a lap later, Biffle would have been a lap down because he was on pit road when the caution came out. Both him and Edwards were. We haven't seen Edwards since. We know he's still in the race because there's no red X on his icon down in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen with him being a teammate of ours. Be interesting if these guys are going to catch any lap traffic before the end of this race as well. They may not. Biffle's kind of hoping they don't. Like not having to worry about trying to pass another car the rest of this race if he can help it. Especially by the time they get to lap traffic, the tires are going to be pretty old. Having to go nearly a full fuel run because our last caution came out with about 65 laps to go. Just inside the pit window to make it to the end. Place at lap 302. What's the score of the Washington game right now? That's what I really want to know. Because despite who wins the Green Bay and Detroit game next week, and if Green Bay wins this week or not, they're still going to need Washington to lose one more. They got the Browns today and then the Cowboys next week. Harvick not going anywhere. He is definitely putting up a late charge. Just waiting for Biffle to make a mistake, and Biffle just hasn't done it since retaking the race lead. Still almost half a run to go yet. Looked like clean air, though, in the first half of the race. He wasn't making any mistakes in that situation. It's kind of similar to what we're seeing right now. Oh, Cleveland's up, too. Awesome. Yeah, I saw they were going to start Carson Wentz this week. I don't know that that would have hurt him necessarily much more than it helped. I guess it would hurt making a quarterback change this late in the season. Come on, Browns. .32 laps remain. The Dodge Charger Southern 500. Halfway out of fuel at this point in the run, but still plenty good to make it to the end. Full power slides into turns 1 and 2 just a little bit. It's going to allow Harvick to get a run to the outside. Biffle drives it deep into 3 and 4. To the line. Harvick is not going to lead that lap. So he still hasn't led today. Bonus points don't really mean much for him. He's not running for a championship at this point in the season. Harvick is cleared. 30 laps to go. It was the second time Harvick got alongside Greg Biffle, but couldn't actually get around him. Gonna get Biffle a little arrow loose into turns 3 and 4. Biffle holds on to the bottom lane all the way through the corner. Biffle gonna gap the 29 car again. Harvick trying to go back to the outside through 3 and 4. Up near the wall a little bit more. It almost seems as if Jeff Gordon's maybe closing in just a little bit. Second straight lap, Harvick tried to go to the top lane through 3 and 4 to get to Greg Biffle. Biffle runs that middle to upper groove into the corner. Harvick almost sneaks underneath. Biffle again gonna block at the start-finish line. 24 laps to go. It's a little separation on Harvick through 1 and 2. This car at times has sailed up the track into 3 and 4. Not enough for Harvick to be able to get around him for the lead yet. Gotta be excruciating for Harvick not to win a race this year, be this close. Still haven't led yet today, and might get a little desperate. Remember, we had a truck race at Darlington a couple weeks ago. Marvin Sheth had walled Ricky Craven to get the win. Or sorry, no, it was John Hamilton and Kyle Busch in the Busch race. Busch dominated, led all but 10 laps of the 147. Got walled going into the final corner. John Hamilton went on to win. Will Harvick be that desperate to get around will Harvick be that desperate to get around Greg Biffle in a similar situation here at Darlington today to try to get his first win? Could happen. I mean, it happened before. And don't look now, but Jeff Gordon, who has led laps a couple different times earlier in the race, is closing in. Biffle up. Harvick has enough of a run this time. I think he's got him. Maybe. He's going to lead. And clear into turn 1. Kevin Harvick to the lead at Darlington in the Southern 500. He just flat out beat Greg Biffle there. Gordon wasn't quite close enough behind the 29 to be able to try to follow him. Biffle power slides into turn 1. 19 laps to go. Kevin Harvick out in front for the first time all race. Biffle's got to stay with him. Pushes really hard. Skirted the rear tires as he got into the corner again. We're coming to 17 laps to go. 350 laps will be complete at the start-finish line. Size Z, R6, welcome into the stream. Biffle trying to get around Harvick there, couldn't do it. Biffle's so close. Kind of put in the same situation really Harvick was. But only the tires are a little older now on this point in the run versus when Harvick was just kind of sitting behind Biffle for a while. Gordon's starting to lose the top 2 again. He's really going to need these guys to get side by side. Biffle on the inside of Kevin Harvick. Well, no, not quite there. I mean, Harvick's hitting his marks. He is not budging. Biffle just can't get underneath him. Closing in on a lap car. I think that's John Andretti up here in the 14. He could be a difference maker. Right rear in the yellow on the tire wear indicator. Not time to panic here. Still 14 laps to go. Needs to get by John Andretti very well, though. Biffle to the inside of Harvick into 1 and 2. Might not need to use the 14 as a pick, but he is underneath Harvick for now. Harvick gets a better drive off turn 2. Biffle going to drive it in really deep into 3. Trying to get back to the inside of the 29 again. He really wants to use John Andretti as a pick if at all possible. He gets to the inside of Harvick. Contact is made. And that might have costed Biffle making the contact. Biffle to the inside of Harvick off turn 2. Big run in the middle of the corner. And cleared. Biffle back to the lead with 13 to go. Was able to use the lap car as a pick to get by Kevin Harvick there. At my left nostril. Gordon gonna have to get by Andretti. Definitely lost the 16 and the 29 here just a little bit in late going. Will it catch any more lap cars before the end? Took Harvick over 40 laps into the run to get by Biffle. And I don't know that Biffle would have gotten back around him if it wasn't for the lap car. He was able to keep up with him. But it's kind of the same situation here. Harvick can keep up with Biffle. It's just so hard to pass. Full power slides just a little bit off turn number 2. Harvick's going to have a run at him into 3. Harvick going to try to go to the outside. Jeff Gordon will clear John Andretti off turn 4. 10 laps to go at the line for Greg Biffle. Does Gordon in third have anything? Gonna need the 16 and the 29 to probably race just a little bit harder. Left rear now starting to wear out on the 16 a bit more. Aero loose getting into 3 and 4 with Harvick all over the back of the 16. Biffle going to hang on to it. 8 laps left. Pretty good corner for both drivers. Maybe a little better for Biffle through 1 and 2. Biffle just does not want Harvick to get close enough, even just to get the 16 aero loose, really. That's the big thing right now. So this late in the run, we can definitely see that happen. Oh, well, that doesn't help either. Darlington stripe for the 11th time today off turn 2. Biffle immediately went to the bottom on the back straightaway, trying to protect the inside. Allowed him to hang on to the lead. 6 to go. That's a mistake Gordon needed back there. Harvick could not get around Biffle. We got a little loose off turn 2. Harvick to the outside through 1 and 2. Biffle gaps him back again. Got a car that just entered pit road there. We're down to 5 laps left. The Dodge Charger Southern 500. Harvick again to the outside. Biffle more in the middle. He's kind of trying to protect. Probably going to take a catastrophic mistake here for Biffle. Either that or just getting aero loose. Maybe Harvick pushes him out of the way. They've raced each other clean so far, but this is feeling almost like the Kyle Busch race a couple weeks ago at Darlington, where it was a clean battle to the last lap and Hamilton walled him going into 1. What is Harvick going to do if he gets a chance to get underneath Greg Biffle? Or get to the left rear quarter panel? Biffle gets loose off the exit of the corner and he tags the wall again. The 12th time he has earned the Darlington stripe, in the second in the last handful of laps. He's in the wall again, and Harvick's going to get to the lead. 2 to go this time by. Kevin Harvick leads. Gordon to second. And Biffle back to third. Biffle's car is shot right now. He is sliding around like crazy. I don't think he's going to have a chance to get back to him. Final lap this time by for Kevin Harvick to win the Southern 500. Biffle, even if he can't get the win, wants to get to Gordon for second. Every point matters here. And after dominating, unless something crazy happens to Harvick in 3 and 4, Kevin Harvick is going to win the Southern 500. Off the exit of the corner, he's got it. Gordon blocks for second. Kevin Harvick is going to win and become the 13th different winner on the season, winning the Southern 500 today, and Biffle lost out on some points there. About 15 of them to be exact in those final couple laps. Dang. Kevin Harvick with the W. He led just 10 laps after starting 33rd in a race that lasted just over 3 hours. Gordon ends up second, and Greg Biffle led 315 laps today and finishes third. Edwards, I saw, finished in 6th. Could have gained 30 points on Edwards if we would have won. Instead, we only gained 15. That's brutal. Didn't come up clutch today like we needed to. I mean, I was hoping I'd have a chance to get back to him after I got in the wall that second time, but then I got loose again the next lap. Off turn 2 anyway. Oh, yep, Harvick got it. Right place, right time. Put the pressure on there late. Got to the lead. Held off Gordon. Won the race. Gordon second. Greg Biffle third. Rusty Wallace fourth. Martin Truex Jr., the rookie, with a top 5. Carl Edwards ended up 6th. Tony Stewart 7th. Mark Martin 8th. Dale Jarrett 9th. Matt Kenseth rounds out the top 10. I think Kurt Busch was the only Roush car that didn't finish in the top 10. And we had just 12 drivers finish on the lead lap. Kurt Busch, who pitted during the green flag session of that last green flag run to the checker there, ended up 13th, first car lap down. Elliott Sadler finishes 18th today. I think there's a chance Greg Biffle might be second in points. If we're 15 points behind Sadler, we could have passed him if we would have won. But Sadler definitely had an off day, finished 2 laps down in 18th. And we had a few DNFs. Mike Bliss, Sanders, Michael Waltrip, Scott Riggs, Shane Neal did finish. So Riggs, Waltrip, Sanders, and Bliss, 4 DNFs in today's race. 10th of a second margin of victory, 3 hours, 6 minutes, and 20 seconds total time on the race. 19 lead changes, 2 cautions for 6 caution laps. 161.42 miles per hour was the average race speed. And that's Darlington sometimes, man. Golly. Gotta check out the point standings. 4 races to go. Next race is the USG Sheetrock 400 at Chicagoland. That'll be taking place next Sunday. And that'll be the last intermediate track of the season. We beat Edwards. We beat Sadler. We're 90 points out of first. We gained 20. 20 points gained on Carl Edwards today. Could have gained 35, though, if we won. And we would be second in points if we won, too, because we'd only be 75 out of first. Sadler's still second, despite finishing 18th, but he lost 46 points to Edwards today, with Edwards finishing 6th, leading laps. Sadler didn't lead any laps, finished 18th. Jeff Gordon, finishing second. He's back in it. He's only 157 out of first. Kurt Busch, 5th in points, 251 back. Johnson, 6th in points, 284 back. Yeah, don't count Gordon out of it yet. 4 races to go. He had a great run today. Led laps, finished second. And again, if you have a shot going into the final race at Talladega, anybody can win the championship there. So that's all you need is a chance. That's a bummer. Mike Bliss fell back with that DNF. He lost 2 spots in points. He's 9th. He's still in the top 10, though. Not by much. That's going to end today's stream. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Have a happy new year. Not a great start 2023 on the channel today with not getting the win after leading 315 laps, but it happens sometimes. It's heartbreaking knowing how late in the season that was and just the domination we had. But those cautions kept everybody right back in it there at the end. I mentioned during the first half of the race we were dominating. We had a big lead, but if we just had cautions that would close the field back together, could have had faster cars in second at the time that, we didn't. Lost the lead during pit stops under caution on multiple occasions. Both under yellow late in the race. And unfortunately, even though the pit crew was good under green, under caution they weren't as good. And that didn't cost us the win because we ended up getting back to the lead anyway. But we did have to work our way around cars on restarts where we maybe could have used our tires a little bit more at the end of the race. And we needed it. But we didn't get it. Edwards leads in his rookie season with 4 races left. It's going to be fun going into next week. Tune in tomorrow on the channel. We'll be having some NASCAR 22 content. We'll be racing at Pocono, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you guys then. Thanks for watching, everybody.